of the Greatest Generation Short Story Education Association. This is a non-profit, expensive hobby. We operate like the federal government. We lose money on every sale, and we take the money back from the taxpayers. None of my books are books. They're all collections of short stories. As a school teacher, I know that boys especially, and men, don't like to read books, but they like to read short stories. And so my strategy was to, everything's short story. You can get 30 or 40 short stories. And the war stories are always by, my stories are in every book, but the war stories are by men who actually did the combat. Our group got together and the colonel said, let's all, about 40 years after the war, our group got together and the colonel said, well, let's all write a story and we'll put it in a loose leaf folder and we'll sell it for $50. You can all have a copy of the best stories from our 490th Bomb Group. And so we did it, and I bought a copy, and I said, this is fantastic. And so they said, you can print it because it's not copyrighted. I picked up 200 stories of the guys who did it. Now this all started because out of Bedford High School, we had a Channel 14 TV program, and Superintendent Dennis Turner said, my dad was in the Battle of the Bulge, and I'd like to have you interview him. So Norm Taylor and Maria, I'll think of her name in a minute. Yeah, Maria here. Maria Edwards. So we started a program, and we interviewed all the local veterans that I could find, World War II veterans. We interviewed some Vietnam veterans also, but since I'm not an expert on Vietnam, so I chose to stay with World War II. And we recorded and broadcast those on Channel 14, and that got me started. And this guy over here, Cook and Steele, took me up to the state legislature and gave me these awards. And then I sent a copy of my book to the Queen of England, and she answered, her lady-in-waiting answered. So my head got bigger and bigger, and I thought, well, I can do this. Now, my mother always told me, quit telling stories, quit telling stories. But that's what I've done for the last 20 years. And so that's really my story. Now, the other part of it is that I just, of course, you know all the stories. You heard it all. I grew up in depression. I got drafted into the service. I learned to pray real fast as soon as we got into England. In fact, I learned to pray as soon as we got on the Queen Mary at Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. Because once we got past the international line, the German submarines are out there. We were on the Queen Mary, and Hitler had offered the German submarine people $2,500 if they could sink the Queen Mary. We went alone because the Queen Mary was so fast. But I'll tell you, we shot off a lot of depth charges. So I think we had company a part of the way. It was a 6-day trip. And we ended up in Scotland, took a little train to England. The next thing you know, we were flying missions for 7 months. And the war ended, they sent us back to go to the Pacific. And they gave us a 30-day pass, and all of a sudden I was running around the streets of Bedford when they dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. And that's when I knew that I was going to live a while. Now, you learn to pray real fast when you're in combat, or you learn to pray real fast when you're in England, and they're dropping bombs on you, and those missiles, as you saw in the film. I've given you all a gift, and if you need a card, if you Google my name on YouTube, you'll find about 5 interviews of me, and you get the whole story, because I tell it over and over and over, and add a little bit each time. But I give these away on purpose because I want kids to know, I want this generation to know. And this generation, we fought for our Constitution. We fought for, and the Constitution based on Christianity, so we fought to save this nation. And we did it. And now they're giving it away. And I could talk for hours on that. All you have to do is watch the news and see 10 million people crossing the border, half of them want to kill us because they're a different religion. Now, people will argue with me about that. Dropping the atomic bomb on Japan, people will argue with me about that. But our government had plans to invade Japan that would have cost millions of lives, American lives and Japanese lives. And so I'm critical about things. I like to ask questions. I don't accept what the people put forward each time. And so but my stories are not, my stories are, I leave my opinions out of the stories. I just tell you what other guys did. And we created this old town character with the leather jacket and cap. And he looks, I'm not gonna put that jacket.
Oh, you don't want to put it on?
He looks like this. There's the jacket. Gotta have the jacket. What are you doing with the jacket? It's 60 degrees out there. I said, I'm advertising. But that's what I want to do. My goal has been to tell you patriotism and to tell kids patriotism and to sell this country back to the citizens who are fighting each other with racism and lies and politics and all that. And so, I've had some setbacks. I've never been recognized. I have 3 degrees from IU, and I've never been recognized by IU. I've talked to the curator at the museum 3 times, and I'm going to take this thing. Eric gave me. I'm going to take this thing up there and shove it in her face again. I've been ignored by the best. I've been ignored by Indiana University, my alma mater. I've been ignored. I've interviewed at Ivy Tech, and they said, "We'll let you know if we need you." And I've been ignored by the Air Force Museum, even though Steele sent 2 books over there, and they thanked him gratefully for donating those books to the library. But they don't sell them in the concession stand. And this is not about money. I lose money on every book I sell. Each book costs $800 to print. They hand it back to me for $10. I go out and sell it at Walmart or someplace and try to sell it for $20. So if you figure out the money that I invested in 8 books, we run around $6,400. And so if I get 20 back, that 10 of it profit is not profit. It's just, here's a little bit of your money back. But I'm educating people. And that's what I do. And that's what I've done. And that's why you got me up here. And that's why I appreciate it so much that I've had the opportunity to teach, work with children, and work with the parents. Many of the parents needed teaching as bad as the children. They needed help and guidance. And that's what churches are supposed to be doing, help and guidance. But I've been to churches, several different churches lately, and I never hear a prayer for our country or for our soldiers or for our veterans. The church seems to be isolated someplace. See, I'm being critical now. You see, I'm getting off the edge. I'm going to quit that. Okay. But that's what I've done. We've interviewed veterans and veterans and veterans. I'll have you know that the way I got interested in art was the fact that in high school, we had a brand new art teacher hired in. She had just graduated. Beautiful gal, red hair. Every boy in the junior, senior class signed up for art that year. I had a little art talent anyway. I doodled all the time in the service. I got a little diary with drawings in it. And so that's why I took up art again with the people. And they encouraged me to join. Put your art in there. That way they will not be last. I will be last. But I made money with my voice. You mentioned about choir. You brought up that black rumor if I couldn't sing. Well,
You told me that.
I made money by being paid for not singing. I I said, Queen Elizabeth, I sent the first book. I sent her a copy of it because she was the king and queen would come down to the flight line and encourage us and build our morale. But they'd bring their daughter, the little skinny princess, who was of my age. So someplace in all this, I always had a dream of meeting her someplace. But, and then when she became queen, she was a staunch contributor and believer in defending the country, which we seem to have lost. So that's the way we got it. I walked by a while ago and I heard somebody say, "He's 98 and he doesn't have a cane." And her husband said, "Well, he's a retired teacher and author. He can't afford a cane." And it went on like that. Grocery stores try to sell me outdated material. American Legion, I forgot to pay one night, and so now they collect the check before I eat. Former students, I see them every place, and they always tell me about their grandkids, which makes me feel very young, you know. How many former students do we have here tonight? 1, 2, stand up. Stand up.
Former students.
I got 7, 8, 9, and I count my daughter and 2 nieces, and they went there too. It's a good deal. I had a wonderful life, and I would love to do it again. And I'm not going to quit until I have to. But, you know, the older I get, the better golfer I was. Lee Trevino said that. But it was true. I still try to walk and putt a little bit. It's just been a great time. According to my former students, I paddled half the kids in Bedford. But we had discipline. I walked the aisle with a paddle up my sleeve. And if a kid was misbehaving, I'd just slide it down and say, "You want to talk to me?" And he'd walk away. You know? So I gave you my dark spots, the fact that I have not been recognized outside. Indiana's overdone itself to recognize me. I did on Leatherwood Creek about growing up in the Depression. That was approved by the state Sesquicentennial Committee. And the others, you won't find a lie in there, and you won't find any novels. I don't write novels. I just want to tell you, and not you particularly, but the world, that we've lost something, and we just should remember it. They don't teach it in high school anymore. I talked to a boy the other day, and he had never seen a map, I don't think. He wondered where England was, and where this was, and where Germany was, and where Japan was. And you know, and they don't teach, they give them 6 weeks to teach about World War II. And they teach about it only in the 6th, 8th, and 11th or something. And so if they let me, I would rewrite school curriculum too. But thank you very much for listening to that old man. And I just pray and hope that I get older. Thank you very much for coming down. I will take a few pictures after this, and the books are all for sale for $20. As CEO, I had to say that. But thank you very much.